Welcome to Speaking of Animals. I'm your host, Jackie Howard. Last week, CAPE staff and volunteers headed to the National Wild Horse and Burro Center at Palomino Valley in Sparks, Nevada, with our trailer in tow. We were headed to rescue a 21-year-old burro who has spent the last 8 months in a pen located at a Nevada prison. We collaborated with American Wild Horse Campaign on this rescue, and I will let Suzanne Roy, Executive Director of AWHC, and her daughter Amelia Parent explain the rest.
We're here today because the American Wild Horse Campaign is really proud to partner with CAPE on the rescue of a 21-year-old wild burro from Nevada. He was rounded up last year from, I think it's the Seven Troughs herd management area, which is part of the Blue Wing complex in BLM speak. And he was rounded up, captured, sent to a holding facility at the Carson City Prison, and then he was put up in an online auction a couple weeks ago. And so Amelia took the lead to bid on him and get him, and CAPE agreed to take him in and give him a forever home. We're always really concerned about these older burros and horses and what happens to them on the online auctions, because technically they can be purchased for $25 and people get title to them immediately, and we're finding too many of them showing up at slaughter auctions. So we're really happy that CAPE is willing to help this burro.
Now let's backtrack for just a moment because I want to give you a little insight into these BLM roundups. Wild horses are protected by federal law on public lands that are managed by the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, and the Forest Service. Even though they are only on a small percentage of this land, ranchers who graze their cattle and sheep on public land view these wild horses and burros as competition. So they push for these mass roundups so that they can essentially clear the land to maximize livestock grazing. This is an $80 million operation that we all pay for with our tax subsidies. This federal management agency rounds up thousands of wild burros and horses by helicopter or roping. This often leads to death or major injury due to the stress and exhaustion that these animals face. Wild horses and burros who survive roundups are stockpiled in government holding facilities. Those who can't be adopted or auctioned off are sentenced to a lifetime of being warehoused in long-term holding facilities, much like this one here in Nevada. At the worst, like Suzanne mentioned, wild horses and burros end up in the slaughter pipeline. Here's Suzanne Roy again to explain the issue with BLM systems for population control.
The horses and burros, they're forced to live within these artificial boundaries, habitat boundaries. They live on lands where predators are killed, also for the livestock industry. And so it's not really a natural system, so there needs to be some kind of management, but there's a much more humane way to do it than rounding them up.
And this is where American Wild Horse Campaign comes in, right? What can you tell us about what your organization does and what the mission is?
Yeah, so our mission is to keep wild horses wild on our public lands and preserve them for future generations to enjoy. And we work very hard to change the federal management program and change it to something that is more humane and more acceptable to the public and less traumatic to these animals. So what we promote is a humane fertility control vaccine that can be delivered remotely by DART to these wild mares, to females, jennies for burros and mares for horses. And once vaccinated, they're protected for a year from pregnancy. So it's a humane way to manage them, and it's an alternative to roundups or an alternative to how other wildlife species are managed, which is through hunting, which we don't like. So.
And if anyone wants to get involved in helping, Amelia, can you tell us what they can do?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram at Free Wild Horses. That's really key to staying involved. We put out action alerts there all the time. So make sure you're staying up to date with us. You can join our mailing list calling your legislatures, making sure that they know what the issue is. A lot of times they don't actually know, so really keep on educating and learning and teaching yourself. That's really key.
Well, if you guys don't follow Free Wild Horses on social media, please do. They're one of my favorite organizations around, and we love partnering with them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
We're
you
so
guys.
excited.
Yay.
We're really
I am happy to report that the wild burro, who we named Papa Antonio, made it safely to his temporary home with Cape's trusted vet. He will spend time building trust with humans and getting a full health check, and soon be introduced to the rescued herd at the Cape Animal Sanctuary, where he will spend the rest of his life. We are working very hard to ensure that this transition for Papa Antonio is as smooth and stress-free as possible. I want to thank Suzanne, Amelia, and American Wild Horse Campaign for all of the incredible work they are doing to help animals in need. And I want to thank you for tuning in this week. We'll see you for part 2 of Papa's story soon, but until then, please remember, you do make a difference.
This is a story of gumption, perseverance, and damn luck. It starts with this man.
Charles Lytton was Einstein brilliant.
He was a genius, made countless contributions to the high technology of his time, vacuum tubes. In 1953, he moved from a young Silicon Valley to Grass Valley, California.
I think that's what happens, right? A lot of us, we found a way to get to Nevada City, Grass Valley, or we found it for the first time, and we don't want to leave.
Soon after, he talked his friend Dr. Donald Hare into starting his engineering business in the same mountain town.
Doc Hare, Grass Valley, I believe came to Grass Valley almost as much for the area as everybody else, but he knew Lytton.
Doc Hare and a small cadre of incredibly talented engineers quickly made their mark on a new technology that was captivating the world: television.
Grass Valley knew how to do things with a transistor that previously took a tube.
What came next is decades of innovation, ultimately leading to dozens of spin-offs and related technology companies who themselves made countless world-changing contributions.
How they got to television is this circuitous path of technology that I don't think anyone would ever predict.
The fact that any of this happened at all is technically improbable.